It has been a crap week. Not really crap, but like, I don't know, not crappy. Just I feel like you ever have a week where it's like just a setback mentally? It happens. It's not the end of the world, and like I always try to snap back into place with the perspective and all that stuff, and it's always really helpful. But this week was tough. And it's not going to get easier in the coming weeks, but that's okay. I have to believe and trust myself that I'm more than capable of dealing with it. I've dealt with harder things in the past, and I can deal with whatever is in front of me. But it was a cruddy week. Maybe that's a better word. Well, cruddy and crappy, kind of the same thing. I wonder if that counts against the algorithm. Crappy. I've already said it 3 times, so I'm trying not to say the other word that I would normally say. Talked to my aunt on the phone, who's one of my favorite people on planet Earth, my dad's sister. And for those of you that don't know, lost my dad when I was 15, and his side of my family is very small. So I don't have much contact with anyone on that side of the family. I mean, she's really the only person I have on that side of the family. And of course her, kid, my cousins and my uncle and stuff. But, you know, we've always had like a very special relationship. Like kindred spirits type of thing, like both very, very sentimental and like emotional and loving and caring. And it's just always a good reset to speak with her. And I got to do that this weekend, which I'm super grateful for. But she's also very, very supportive of my musical pursuits. And my uncle's funny, and like they're a bit old fashioned. They're like, Midwest Ohio, but like super cool. I don't I don't know why I have to caveat it, but like they're cool. But he was giving me a hard time about swearing on the podcast, which is funny. So I'm trying not to, but it's difficult for me, I have to admit. It's just kind of in my brain now. What's also in my brain is so lift the curtain a little bit. Technically, this headphone is supposed to be on this year, and vice versa, obviously. And but the cord is on the side that's supposed to be the left side of your head. So it's funny because Gravis commented on my most recent podcast clip and mentioned it, and I was like, I can't do it the other way. It just trips me out too much that like what I'm supposed to be hearing in my left ear is coming into my right ear. And then immediately when I set up the podcast today, I was like, all right, I can't do that anymore. So I switched it. But anyways, how the hell are you? Discord's popping. Well, the members are growing, but I think people are a little bit weary to share, which I totally get. It's not everyone has. It's not easy for everyone to open up about their stuff, which I completely get. I have never had that problem, probably to a fault, where like I'll tell anybody my life story, which is probably some sort of trauma-based thing of like, hey, isn't this interesting about me? My entire identity is the things I've been through. My friends make fun of me for it sometimes, and in inappropriate ways that I wouldn't mention in this setting, but they know what I'm talking about. God, I want to tell the story so bad, but I just don't think it's appropriate for this context, or probably to have on the internet in general. But anyways, I've never really had an issue with it, and my thing is that I would just not warn people, but encourage people to be more open, especially in like a therapeutic setting, because when you go to therapy, you're only going to get out of it what you put into it. So if you're going to your therapist and lying or holding back information and not being completely forthright with what you're going through and what you've been through, there's only so much they can do with the information they're given. So I feel like in general, I try to be open with everyone. I have this struggle sometimes because I do believe, like, sometimes you'll hear people say some things are not for, like, some things are just for you to keep. And I do believe that, but I also think going too far that direction is kind of fake. It's like, oh, so I have to pretend nothing's going on and like that I'm totally okay or whatever. Like, I think that's kind of whack too. So there's like a balancing act, like everything, but just a bit of advice for anyone who's in therapy or considering starting therapy. You really have to be willing to put yourself out there, and confront the things that you need to confront that maybe you don't want to confront, in order to have like a healthier brain and healthier life. Yeah. So I've never had that issue with opening up, and I think some people in the Discord are a little bit weary of like, I don't know these people and stuff. So I'm still working out the kinks. I still think it's something that could be really helpful for people. So that's cool, and I'm grateful for anyone that's joined it. And it's a nice thing. Anyways, yeah. So this week is the first week of it's opening day is Thursday. And I know no one my age or younger gives a shit about baseball, but it's my favorite thing. And I'm so excited. And it made me like, I wanted to. Last week I mentioned wondering if other people have a prized possession, something of great sentimental value to you. That may, like, I don't know, it could be anything, whatever your prized possession is. I can't tell you what excuse me, I'm sorry, that's rude. I can't tell you what you prize most in your life, but um, I figured out what mine was, and I wanted to share it, especially because it's almost baseball season. So if this gets annoying, I'm sorry. It's very shitty. I don't want this to be the way things are, but I have to try to say things that I'm saying in this podcast in a way that I can utilize on social media, because not a lot of people watch this yet. So if you watch this, I appreciate it, but not a lot of people are. So I have to kind of try to shade towards that direction. So I'm going to reiterate what I just said in a more palatable way for me to cut up and be like, you did, you look at it. So that's what I'm going to do. I have a prized possession. I finally figured it out. And this is the look at this, huh? This is beautiful. If you're not watching, I'm holding my prized possession. It is a home run ball that my dad and I caught at a Yankee game, April 8th, 2007. My birthday's April 7th. He surprised me with tickets to a Yankee game. This was right around the time that A-Rod was really starting to push or like the talk of him becoming the youngest player to hit 500 home runs was really heating up. And so this was home run number 468, which I always thought was cool that I got one on the way to 500. And it's so weird to hold it, like to think of that day and like what it meant to me, what it has meant to me my entire life and will mean forever when I eventually pass this down to my child. And like how it's a nothing day, like it's just another day, but this day, the day that like this became mine, is one of the brightest memories I've ever had with my dad, and I cherish it. I'll cherish it forever. And I've scoured the internet, and I finally found a clip of the home run, because again, it was a nothing game. It was like early on in the season in April, and it was a nothing game. And I finally found the video of this, and it's shitty and grainy, but just the fact that it exists is really cool to me. But so the whole story behind it is, my dad, huge Yankees fan, great at baseball growing up, blew out his knees because he got hit by a car, never really made it. And that's why he always pushed me into following my dreams, which I cherish forever. And it's like one of the things that keeps me going is thinking that I know he would approve of me taking these risks and stuff. But anyways, huge baseball fan, and that was always my biggest bond with him and my grandfather. Just my summers were just filled with watching Yankee games. Like every single day, we'd be outside playing catch or something, and then come in when the game started, eat dinner together. It was the best. So he surprised me with tickets to a Yankees game, and I was, what was it, 2007? It's what, 2024, and I'm about to turn 30, so that's minus what, 17. I was like 13 years old, so this was also 2 years before my dad passed away. So it was like really one of our last. It might have been the last. Oh no, it wasn't, because we went to the game where he hit. We were at the game where he hit 500, which is another cool part of the story that I'll bring back later. So he surprised me with Yankee tickets, and my dad didn't have a ton of money, but always at least once a year we'd try to make a game. And so we got some decent seats in the outfield, but nothing crazy. And then we noticed that my neighbor was the police officer guarding like the section up front, and she waved us down and was like, come on, come sit here. So right away, that's a cool part of the story, because if we weren't sitting where we were, we wouldn't have gotten the ball. And so A-Rod hits the home run. It lands right near us and bounces back onto the field. And then if my memory serves me correctly, who are they playing? I want to say Baltimore. I believe they lost the game. I don't even care. Like, it never was in my head. Uh, Nick Markakis, the outfielder, uh, got the ball off the ground and looked up to us and just tossed it. It's like slow motion in my memory of just the ball just and my hands out, and then my dad's hand just snatching it because he was not going to let me drop the ball, you know? So he caught it, and it was just, I mean, it's just incredible that I still have it. And like, you know, this is a physical representation of one of the best memories with my dad that I ever got the pleasure of experiencing. And I just wanted to share it with you because I think it's cool. And what's interesting to me about it too is, like I said, this is number 460. Again, I'm sorry if you hate baseball and you don't care, but like, you can at least attest to like a nice memory, right? This is home run number 468 for A-Rod, and he was on his way to becoming the youngest player to hit 500. Years later, my dad again was like, "We're gonna go to the Bronx Zoo today," and I'm like, "Cool, that's cool. Bronx Zoo's fun. They have a great gorilla exhibit. I'm down." And then on our way, I noticed like we were going away from the zoo, and like I could see Yankee Stadium in the distance. And he was just like, "Hey, bud, can you hand me what's in that bag right there in the back seat?" He was big on surprises, and so I like pull out the bag and I look in it, and it's like my Yankee jersey and my Yankee cap. And he's just like, "We're going to the game," and I was like, "Let's go!" And so we go to the game, and A Rod was in a terrible slump leading up to this because it was in his head, you know, and so we're at the game, and A Rod's up, and this is I'm sorry if I like get emotional. This is my best memory with my dad. So the reason why it all connects is because caught 468. Wow, he might hit 500 home runs, like be the quickest player to ever do that. Go to the game. He's on 499. Surprised me with the tickets, and A Rod's up, and he cracks the ball like he did many, many times in his career. And I'll never forget, he like leaned because it looked like it was going to be foul. And me and everyone in the stadium collectively was doing the same thing. And when it went out, again, another slow motion moment in my head of us just both pumping our hands in the air and looking at each other. And remember, now my dad died in 2009. So now I believe that was in 2008. And, or maybe it might have even just been later that year. My dad died in 2009, so this was like our last game we ever went to together. And I knew he was sick, but I didn't know how sick at the time. And I know he knew how sick he was. So uh, I just, it plays in slow motion in my head the moment we both looked at each other and made eye contact and both started welling up with tears as if we knew that this would be the last great moment we shared together before it all started to go downhill. And it just, I'll cherish that till the day I die. And I'm so grateful that he was always willing to try his best to give me as many cool experiences growing up as possible, even though we weren't the most financially, we didn't have a ton of money. He's probably bad with money, but like he always tried to make sure to like give me the best in all aspects of life. And like he was the best. He is the best. This ball is the best. But yeah, that's why this is my prized possession, because it represents those two moments. Also, I don't know if you can see the wall, the program from the day that he hit 500 is on my wall too. And then also what I love about this is like this case is fucked. It's like stained and old and shitty, but it's his handwriting, my dad's handwriting, that says like A-Rod's 468th home run, 4/8/2007. And so like I'll never change this case because of that. So thank you for coming to my show and tell. My bad. Again, I'm sorry if you're not interested in baseball at all, but I just yeah, I'll always cherish having that and having that memory with him, and miss him dearly. And this week's baseball, opening day, so super excited for that, because it's just always, I know I talked about the dream I had last week or in the last couple episodes. It's just always been my greatest connection to him, and it always will be. And it's one of those things that like that's never gonna go away, and I'm grateful for that. There's other things that I was connected to him with or by that died with him, but that's one that will live past me. Hopefully, hopefully, who knows? I don't know. I guess I don't know that for sure. But in all likelihood, baseball's not going anywhere, even though it's a struggling, dying sport. See, now I don't want to drive all the three people listening away for reasons of they don't give a shit about what I'm talking about. But yeah, I just wanted to share that. Thought it was cool, and I'm struggling in my head. I want to post like a cool jazzy cover of "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," like to honor him, and like because it's opening day this weekend and stuff, or this week. But I can't tell if what it's a little like there's a slight resistance in my head because it's a little bit cheesy, but also like who gives a shit? It's I like it. That's what I gotta always remember. That brings me to something else I want to talk about. Like I've talked about it so many times, but the whole like being authentic to yourself so that your soul doesn't get destroyed is really so fucking important. And I was thinking about it in terms of like if I were to meet with a label and they were like, we want you to do this. I do a lot of different type of things, and I try my best to mesh them into one type of, one genreless genre that makes enough sense to exist. And, that's not really what people in positions of power in the music industry want to put you in a box so they know what to do with you and know how to sell you. But if you've ever listened to any interview with any artist of any note ever, all of them said, along the way, everyone told me not to do this or not to do that or not to go about it this way. And I said no every time and did it anyway. And I'm one of the greatest of all time. And it's like, I wonder if talking to an A&R or a label executive and being like, dude, look at all the greatest artists of all time. All of them were like, push the boundaries. All of them broke certain rules that we thought had needed to exist. And it's like, don't you feel like your best chance of recreating that is by choosing someone who that's their whole thing, I don't know. It just, to me, I was like, I fantasize about like being in that room, in that situation, in that meeting. How would I act? What would I say? What would I do? And I really feel like if and when I'm given that opportunity, that's one of the things I would say of like, I do this thing. I'm the only person who does it this way because I'm trying to be the most authentic version of myself. And I think that subconsciously, if anything, resonates with people, even if they're not consciously like watching a song or watching a video or like listening to a song or like, I can tell this guy's coming from the heart. There's something in us that can connect with something that feels more human, even if it's inexplainable. And like, I feel like I would like talk to them about that and be like, that's what I am or what I have to offer. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm even talking about this, but that's what I have to offer. So don't you think that putting me in a box would just destroy any of that, This is I'm sure I'm not the only one that has like hypothetical arguments and conversations with people in the shower or in the car that will probably never happen. Not that I'll never meet with a record label, but like just other social situations where I'm like, if that happened, then this would happen. And then I'd say this, and then I'd do this, and then they probably do this. And then this is what I'd say to that, all for nothing. That conversation's never going to take place. Hopefully. I don't want whatever that made up conversation in my head is to take place. But it's funny that we all do that. It's like, I guess it's another form of like preparing for the worst, and it's entertaining. It's like playing out a very realistic movie in your life. But sometimes I make up the dumbest scenarios sometimes. And it's like, why am I doing this? This is never going to happen. I'm sure I'm not the only one. But yeah, I was, because of the conversation I had with my aunt on the phone, we were talking about all that, like the authenticity thing, being real and like trying to have something that people can really connect with. And that's what I want ultimately more than anything. But I was just thinking about it in the professional sense of like, why do labels? I mean, I get why it's easier. It's probably easier to market in the beginning of like, this is a rapper, this is a country singer. But if there's someone that's an amoeba, it's like life is not so black and white. Like I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking just from my point of view. And my point of view is that I like all different kinds of things. But I feel like most people aren't only listening to one thing or only watching one type of TV show. Like they might have a favorite for sure. Everyone has things that they prefer over other things. But most people like a little bit of everything, I think. or at least enough people like a little bit of everything. Then it's like, why don't more artists or more music, more whatever, get marketed in that way, rather than it being like, this is what you are. You're gonna follow this formula as many times as we can to create around the same result, and it's gonna make us money. It's gonna make you money, and you're gonna have an average career, and then you're gonna fall off in 3 years. It's just like every artist that I admire that has longevity has not done that. Has done something a little bit different and outside of the box, and like someone was smart enough to give them the freedom to do that. But it's very rare, and I don't get why it's rare. Maybe there are not as many artists who are capable of doing that. That's definitely possible. I don't know. Now I'm getting in the weeds with that kind of stuff, so I don't really give a shit that much. I just want to do what I do and take it as far as I can. But there's also a possibility that this audio is fucked because for some reason the waveform is super, super big on my computer. But I'm hoping not. We shall see. Yeah, Discord channels going, whatever, trying to get more people to join. But something I noticed that sucks is that the link I send out like expired eventually. So, and a few people hit me up about it. And then like now tons of other people are opening the message with an expired link. And it's like, oh shit. So that sucks. Whatever. Who cares? I was wondering, I feel like, how do I start this subject? If you're someone that's constantly thrust into a caretaker role, I feel like it can be a really lonely place to be, because there are people who thrive in helping other people and taking care of other people, and then when it comes to trying to take care of themselves, everything just collapses around them. And I think it's a multi-pronged issue, multi-layered issue, where one of the things is it's nice to focus on other people's problems and try to help them out, to ignore your own. That's one, because it's much more difficult to confront your own issues than help other people. The other thing is you feel like you don't have the time or space to confront your own problems because you're constantly helping other people with theirs. I've said this before, I'll say it a million times. You have to be willing and able to take care of yourself if you ever hope to take care of or help another person. If you aren't in the right place mentally, physically, spiritually, to live your own individual life, then you're never going to be a good partner, a good caretaker, a good friend. It's just not possible, because you might be able to withstand it for a period of time, and maybe it's even a lengthy period of time, but eventually you ignoring your own stuff that you need to be dealing with will catch up to you. And so I urge anyone who's in some sort of I just feel like there's people who were put on earth to help take care of other people, and it's not an easy existence. But it just seems like certain people, like I have people in my life that's actually like everyone in my life, it seems like down the line is just like one caretaker and then another one and then another one on like in multiple different aspects of my life. And in some ways I've always felt like I enjoy being in that role too, but it's just a slippery slope when you're constantly focused on helping other people. Then like you know, slowly but surely your own personal stuff just starts to add up and pile up and crumble, and it's like, okay, now what are you going to do? Because now you're forced to take care of yourself, and you have been I don't know, your reality around you has been programmed around you only taking care of other people. So now there's like a guilt in it of like, I can't take care of my own stuff, everyone else is going through. So it's like, no, slow it down, take a step back and realize like you have to take care of yourself. And it's really difficult. I feel like people who are in that role also are people who are incredibly empathetic and sympathetic and like feel very strongly, and that's why they have the capability of being there for other people when it's needed. But that comes with the opposite side of that subject, where it's like that means you also feel the pain and the struggle much harder than the average person as well. So even more reason why you have to make it a priority to take care of yourself, because you don't want to lose yourself in the progress of helping, or no, you don't want to lose yourself in the process of helping someone else gain themselves. And it's just a real slippery slope. Like, it's an admirable thing to always be helping other people, to always try to be helping other people, but it comes a time and place where it's like you gotta set limits and set boundaries on that to make sure that you're okay. And again, it's like, if you're not okay, what can you offer someone else? It'll only last so long. It's artificial if it's coming from a place of like ignoring your own stuff and trying to handle other people's problems all the time. It's not a sustainable model of helping. um, yeah, but and something else that has been very prevalent in my personal life recently is I like being there for people, but I always have to be weary of how I am there for people. Um, I have a certain way of speaking and way of delivering what I'm trying to say. And uh, if it's not being received by the other person, I have to be able to take accountability and realize it may be something I'm doing. It may be the way I'm saying something, the way I'm trying to deliver the message. And it's hard for me, and I'm sure other people, to not take it personally. Like, whoa, that's not how I meant that at all. What, didn't you hear what I said? Um, and it's a two-pronged thing. It takes two to tango, right? Like, the other person could be misconstruing how you're trying to deliver your message or what your message really is. But if they're not getting what you're trying to say, then you have to take the onus of like adjusting the way you're saying it or adjusting the what you're saying to drive your point home. And another thing that I really struggle with, and everyone struggles with, someone comes to me to tell me about things they're dealing with. It's very difficult to not come across like you're lecturing them. And I always try to caveat, like, I don't know anything. I don't know any much of a damn thing. But if you come to me, I assume that you respect my perspective enough to want to gain some of it, or to want to at least bounce it off of me, to be like, what do you think about this? So it's hard for me to just listen sometimes without being like, I have so many thoughts about this and I want to help you and I'm eager and like I want to help you make your life better, or try to get you out of the situation that you're in. But sometimes people just need just grace and an ear. And so I'm trying my best to like always balance those two things, cuz the flip side of that is sometimes people don't want to hear what you have to say because it's the truth, and they already know the truth, and they don't necessarily need to hear it again from you. But also it's like, okay, but then is it like, I don't know the answer. I'm asking, is that also just a slight resistance from them? Like, they don't want to be told what's what, and they'd rather, like, I don't know. Like, they'd rather live in their, like, they know what's going on, right? And you're telling them what's going on from your perspective, and how, I don't know, maybe they've made a mistake, or they need to improve this aspect of something to be happier or be healthier, whatever it is. Is it that they don't want is it that they just need an ear to bend, and they just need someone to lean on and be like, hey, this is what I'm going through, I just really need to get it off my chest, and they don't need answers right now? Or is it that they don't want to be exposed to what's really going on because it's scary and frightening, and like, oh shit, I'm fucking up type of thing? Or even not in that context, but like, I don't know. So I always bounce back and forth between being like, I feel too, though, that like I have to set some boundaries and be like, I know my heart, I know where I'm coming from. I'm very, very in tune with the way I'm saying things and what I'm saying, that like I know that I'm never trying to come across shitty ever. So I always want to improve. I always want to be the best version of me I can for someone I love and care about that's coming to me to talk about something. But also, I got to know that, like, if they're not receiving it well, maybe I can adjust it, but maybe they're just not in a place to receive it at all, because I know that I'm not an asshole, you know? But again, for the billionth, trillionth time, I don't know anything. So I think as people, we have to accept it. There's a possibility we don't know anything, and we might be wrong about everything. I nowadays it seems like you have to take such a deep stance in something and like live by that that's your belief, and that's what you believe, and that's what you feel, and anything else is wrong, 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 wrong. And it's masked as like being an activist or being progressive about an issue. What it really is not being, is like a complete ego trip that like my opinions are the best ones. I think that if you have any opinion that's too one side or the other, not even just political, just in general, too dug in on one thing or the other, you're ignorant. Like, how do you not see that you could, one, be wrong, and two, there are certainly pieces of the other thing that are applicable in one situation or the other. Now, obviously, there are things, I don't want to be taken wrong, that there's only one answer to. But there's very few of those things. It's just like you have to be against pure evil. That's pretty easy. Like, and that's where you start to get in the weeds. Like, what is evil? Everyone's definition might be slightly different. But my point is, to remain open-minded is to knock your ego down 20 levels and realize you could be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to find something out later and adjust your opinion and be like, oh, I was wrong. Now I'm right because I've learned. Learning is good. Like, learning is cool. Not fucking thinking you know everything and being like, this is right. I know I'm right. I'm not saying you can't have moral stances or beliefs. Obviously, I mean, that's what your guiding compass, but it just seems like so many people now, it's like their entire personality and identity is what they think they believe, and they can't show any cracks in the armor because it would damage who they are, rather than being open and it not being your complete identity and realizing I could be wrong about some stuff. So if I get into a conversation with someone about something we don't agree with, I don't have to be the worst person ever and be like, no, I'm right and you're wrong. I'll never understand that. I've never understood that. I've always been someone that's like, and maybe it's the opposite type of ego thing for me, where it's like I have so little confidence in myself that I can't believe my own opinions too deeply because I might be wrong. But again, you know, if you're taking a stand against, like, I don't even know what I'm allowed to say anymore, so I don't want to ruffle any feathers. But like, if you're taking a stance against like abuse against women or something, obviously there's no like gray area. Like, no, it's wrong. It's just wrong. But if it's like other like less important things, or it's like, dude, why do you care so? Like, obviously, again, that's something to care about deeply, and you should. But other stuff, it's like, what are you doing caring about that? And why are you making it who you are, rather than it just being like something you feel now, and in a week or a day or in 10 minutes after this conversation is over, it might completely change. To me, again, it goes back to like the variety of like the spice of life, and I enjoy so many different types of things. It's like, I wouldn't want to be stuck in one way of thinking for too long. It just sounds boring. Like, I want to constantly be changing and adjusting and learning and stuff. But I think some people have a resistance to that because it's like, that's a little more chaotic of a spiritual and mental existence, rather than having some stability and be like, well, this is what I believe, and I'm got those boxes checked. Now I can just go about my life being this person. I'd rather be an amoeba, dude. I'd rather be a fucking sea creature and flow with the water, like Bruce Lee said that one time in that one thing. But again, I don't know anything, so I could be completely off base on this. It's always possible. I just think you got to remind yourself. It's just so much of our shit, so many of our problems comes from having an overinflated ego. And the problem with that term is that it's been co-opted to mean like, I think I'm the greatest. And that's not at all what having a big ego means. Like in some circumstances, that's not at all what having a big ego means. It very well could be that your ego is overinflated, and it manifests itself by you thinking the world is against you, you thinking everything that's said to you is an affront on you and your personality and your life and your beliefs and the things you care about. That's also a overinflated sense of self, and an ego that is way too big to hold all the time. There is the other type, that the more classic version of it does exist, where, you know, your ego is overinflated. You think you matter more. You think you're more important. You think you're the greatest or whatever. But either side of it, I feel like a lot of people's issues come from it. And Same thing with me. Like I think, or I try my best to remain humble, but I think my ego is too big in the sense of like my problems. Oh no, what is everyone gonna say and think and do about my problems? And it's like no one cares. And I feel like that's accepting the fact that no one cares at all about you is unlocks something deep within your soul that's like, oh, this weight gets lifted off you of like, oh, that's right. I can give myself a little bit of breathing room and some grace to like get what I need to have get done or get what I want to have done. When you realize that like these things that you need are all based on your overinflated ego. It's like you don't need anything except like, the needs that we all know: water, food, shelter, and maybe some like affection with other people. Other than that, it's mostly made up because of your ego. Like, I need to do this. And it's like, no, you don't. You actually don't. You don't need to do anything. You should want to do certain things. You should want to be a good person. You should want to help others. And like in terms of like making sure humanity continues, those are pretty important. But when it comes to like certain things I put pressure on myself for, it's like no one gives a fuck except you, dude. You could just disappear right now, not in a depressing way, but you could just stop all of this and the world, it would be okay. Like it would just kind of go on business as usual. And the moment you can really truly accept that, and it takes so much pressure off of you, and there's a freedom to it of like, oh yeah, I am a literal microcosmic speck of dust on another tiny speck of dust that is our planet, that is in a tiny, tiny, tiny little galaxy that is one of billions and billions of galaxies. I think I don't know. I know stuff about space, but I might have skewed those numbers a little bit. It's helpful. I especially with people with depersonalization, I think a lot of it started with psychedelic drugs or weed or some shit like that. So I wouldn't recommend it to. You got to be careful. I don't think it's as easy as like people are making it seem nowadays. Like everyone's doing fucking mushrooms and shit, and like no one really cares about things that aren't like hard drugs anymore, which mostly I agree with and understand. I would be weary for some people to start experimenting with these things because your mind is very fragile and you don't know what it's going to do to you until it's already done what it's going to do. But I think for some people, it's really helpful to have a psychedelic experience. Or not even helpful. I'm just saying from my own experience, one of the benefits that I've gotten out of it, excuse me, is there is an ego death involved. There is a like, and damn near across the board, most people who have had a psychedelic experience will say this, like you realize in a matter of a few hours that you are not like you're so small, but also at the same time so big because you're connected to everything. Like everything is one, life is life, the earth is all breathing collectively, like, and that's kind of beautiful. But again, I'm not one of these people that's like everyone should do it. I think that's ridiculous to say, honestly. But I think a lot of people who are healthy and able should, or it can be a beneficial experience for you for sure. Um, I've had plenty of experience with those things, and I don't think that I need to do it anymore again. And I think with struggling with trying to be in a get out of a state of unreality as often as I am, I don't think that thrusting myself into one would be the smartest move for me in my current state. But generally, I do appreciate some of the perspective that my experiences with that stuff has given me. But then also I've had terrible experiences with it too. So it's a double-edged sword. You just got to be careful. And like, that's the one thing about it becoming a little bit more mainstream. I hope that it becomes a little more controlled and safe. The thing with weed that trips me out is like, that's what everyone said would happen once weed got legalized. But now it's like almost too much. And also it's still the Wild West. Like still it's very easy to do it in an unregulated way. So it's like it's just good that people aren't getting like thrown in fucking prison for life for selling weed or like smoking weed. Like that's crazy. That's ridiculous. But is it getting a little too strong? And like, I'm almost glad I stopped smoking weed when I did, because now it's fucking crazy, dude. You're out of your mind gone when you're like, doing dabs all day or something. Like, dude, that's a little much. Smoke a little reefer, have a couple joints, that's fine. But pushing it too far is like, I just can't imagine. No disrespect, by the way. You're cool. Whatever you do, whatever. As long as it's not really harming you, do your thing. But I just can't imagine personally in my current, like where I'm at, wanting to feel something all the time. Like I'm always trying not to feel anything. Like if anything, I want to just be still and like as clean feeling, sober feeling as possible. Not that I'm not sober, but my 95% of the time is that I have that desire. But don't forget that I said I might not know anything. So damn, I think the audio might be fucked on this. That sucks. This episode's been pretty good so far, don't you think? Another thing I was thinking about, I'm not the first person to say this, but it does interest me. I think a lot of artists have this thing in them because they're more in tune with the world around them and like feelings and emotions and just a hyper awareness of like everything. And that's where a lot of creativity comes from. But it's also where the resistance to start something can come from. And I feel like because like when you're an artist and you're in touch with a lot of what's going on, socio-political stuff, just human to human stuff, the weather, earth, every vibrations and stuff, because your brain can go to that place and your soul can go to that place to access that stuff for your creative needs. Your brain also has the capability of being crushed by all those things, and it can create like a resistance to start something because there's a possibility that where this new thing, this new journey leads is a place you don't want to go. But artists also tend to overthink most things. And so it's like you have to completely eliminate that and just start things. Like even small tasks, not like, I'm going to start writing a movie or like, but like start anything. Like I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start working out every day, or I'm going to start eating healthy. Like there's always a resistance to these things because once you allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to start something new, you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable enough to fail at that thing. And we have to like get it out of our heads. I feel like that failure it's just always viewed as bad. Obviously there's things you fail at, it's catastrophic, but generally speaking, failing is just another like step in your journey. It's just another like tool you have of an experience you can draw from of like, this is probably why this went wrong. But especially when it's resistance to like starting a creative endeavor, it's like, why do you give a fuck about failing? Who cares? Failing, think of all of the masterpieces in the world that have come out of a mistake. Mistakes can be absolutely gorgeous, be beautiful. Sometimes a wrong note, a mistake note can make a song, Kanye's Runaway was like a warm-up that the guy was doing on the keyboard, trying to get the sound correct of what he wanted it to sound like, and they were like, that sounds cool, the whatever it was, that wasn't the note. I think it's definitely that. Gotta do it now. That was a fucking thing that just happened, and if there was any resistance of that starting, that song wouldn't exist. That's obviously like a small example, and it might be a bit of a stretch, but I'm just saying, by the way, can you tell the coffee's kicking in? I'm just saying that to have a resistance to start anything is just doing a disservice to yourself and like the new experiences that you could be bringing into your life on a day-to-day basis that you're just like scared. Why are you scared? This is another, like, we are so worried about other people judging ourselves because we judge ourselves. No one's judging you. Again, it's a hard thing to accept because our egos are fragile. No one gives a shit about you. And when you realize that, it's beautiful. It's amazing. It's like, word, thank God. You feel, especially in today's age online with like, we purposely put ourselves out there to be judged by other people. If you eliminate that, no one's watching you. No one's paying attention. Do what you gotta do. Do what you want to do. Just go for it. It doesn't matter. None of this matters that much. It drives me nuts. Like I'm saying this, I struggle with it too, so I drive myself nuts. But this is always where I come back to like correct my path if it starts to stray. Like, yo, no one gives a fuck about what you're doing. Just do it until someone does care, and then if they do, beautiful, that's great. And if they don't, also great. Who gives a shit? Do it for you. Fucking elbowing shit. I'm getting amped up. I mean it though. It's like, who cares? Just do it. I'm like brick wall. I don't know what it is. I've had a shitty week. I'm starting to feel better. Let's go. Everything's going to be okay. But stop being scared to start stuff and stop being afraid of judgment. You're at the, like, you have to stop judging yourself, because if you don't stop judging yourself, you'll forever feel like other people are constantly judging you. Like, dude, no, they're not. They're not. You don't matter. And not that you don't matter, not that like you aren't worthy of love and affection and a happy life and to do good things, but you don't matter in that way. You just, you doing or not doing something is not affecting people the way you think it is. And that's a hard thing to accept. And I think maybe that's why we become comfortable judging ourselves and feeling like other people are constantly judging us, because it's hard to accept our little tiny role that we have. Doesn't mean you can't do great things. It doesn't mean you can't make an impact on the world and humanity itself. Plenty of people have. That's why we have everything around us, of course. But to take it to such a high level that it completely crushes your soul, your mind, your being from starting or doing anything, stop, dude. Chill out. No one gives a shit. The moment you realize that, the moment the weight gets lifted off your chest and you're just the most free you could possibly be. And by the way, I have to remind myself of that every day. So I'm not saying like I have it all figured out, but in this moment I do. In this moment I'm like, fuck yeah, that's the way. Sorry, Uncle Larry, for swearing. I can't help it. I didn't mean to. I'm so sick of like I don't know, man. I get like, it's not like I don't get where it comes from, but if you really sit with yourself, I feel like people don't do this enough. Not enough people just sit with themselves and think and think and think and think and look at every possible angle of every thought they have and wonder and I get that maybe that's a luxury. Maybe some people feel they don't even have the time to do that, but make the time to do that. Because if you don't know yourself, if you can't go to the level in your head that you need to really understand yourself, and you can't be honest with yourself, then you're never going to be fully happy. Like, you're never going to live up to like the potential that you have to be great, to do great things, just for the sake of doing them, not for the sake of some pressure that you're putting on yourself that this pretend humanity in your head is really putting on you. It's not real. We worry about stuff that's not real and ignore things that are. Why? Is it because it's easier to ignore the things that we should be worrying about and should be actively trying to help change? It's harder to actually change those, and it's easier to just pretend that all these other things are going wrong in your head? I don't know. I don't know the answers, but when I sit with myself and I think about the things I stress about and worry about, that comes to mind of like a reason why. Maybe it's just too hard. Maybe I just feel like it's too difficult to change. You mourn this, like you make this version of yourself so big that the shitty version of yourself, the things you don't like about yourself, you make it so big that it's like impossible to take on. Because if you lost that piece of you, then who would you be? What would you be after? What would be left of you if you got rid of this big part of you that sucks? First of all, there's not that big of a part of you that sucks. And second of all, when you got rid of it, nothing would happen except your life would improve. So what's the resistance to change? Is it the same thing where you're afraid to start trying to change because there's a possibility you'll fail? Well, I'll tell you what, real failure is never taking the first step. Man, oh man. Man, oh Shevitz. I'm sorry that I'm ranting a bit. My throat is sore right now from how much I'm like doing that weird whisper yell where like I'm trying to hold it back so I don't literally scream, but also push it a bit. Probably terrible for my voice. I got to start doing the dream journal thing. I think that stuff's so cool. I had 3 like really vivid dreams last night. Now I can't remember a single thing. I think I was singing in one, and I was a really good singer, which was cool. I'd love to take vocal lessons. Because like I can sing enough to make songs and stuff, and I have a nice voice. I believe that. That's cool that I have the ability to be confident enough in myself to do that. But like I watch, I don't know. I just feel like I could level up with in that aspect quite a bit, and I'd really love to do that. I'd love to take lessons in everything. Like I play multiple instruments, but I would love to learn more. I don't actually know what I'm doing. That's a little bit of a secret for the three of you watching. I don't actually know what the fuck I'm doing on keyboard or guitar at all. That's one of the fun things about every time I pick up the guitar. This is never going to work. Is it? We'll make it work. You know what I'm saying? One of the fun things about when I pick up the guitar is that, like, because I don't really know how to play, anything could happen. And that's not the same with the saxophone. Like, that's what the instrument I was taught how to play. So there's certain boxes I, like, immediately go to when trying to develop an idea on the saxophone that, like, that's just my parameter for how I learned and all that stuff. And obviously I've pushed it past that. But with something like the guitar, specifically the guitar, because with keyboard, with piano, it's a very visual thing for me. Like I can see where the next note probably should go and like connect that with my ear. But with guitar, like I don't know what the fuck's going on. I kind of know where to put my fingers, and I kind of like, you know, I know where certain chords would go. Like I know the obvious things and a little bit more than the obvious things, but it's just fun for me in my head because like I feel like there's a bit of whimsy to it where like I don't really know what's going to happen when I pick it up, and that's nice. Of course, I say I don't know what's going to happen when I pick it up, and then I play the one song I know how to play. All right, that was embarrassing, but listen, I'm better than that. I just don't have the correct angle. I just sounded like that dude from Love on the Spectrum, which is the best show ever created. I may have just botched the rest of this podcast by moving the keyboard, but I'm still going to try. I'm so sorry for all these horrific... Everything is... It started off so good. Why did I do this? But now I'm committed, so it's happening. Okay, how about this? This is probably not working. Oh, what was that song that I've been playing recently? Want to hear a new song that I've been working on? If I can remember how it goes. Oh yeah, okay, ready? If I met you yesterday, would I still take your breath away? Would you fall for me again? That's all I got so far, but I like it. Yeah, dude, see, I wasn't scared of failing just now, even though I did fail. That was a complete clusterfuck. But, like, who cares? Whatever. I had to just tell myself, like, there's only going to be a couple people watching, and if they're really watching, then they're in. If they're still on this podcast 40-something minutes in, then you got them. They're in. I have errands to run today. I got to do this. I got to do that. It'll be good. I haven't left the house in a few days, and I feel like I don't give that credit enough of, like, how much it really affects me to not get some sunlight and stuff. It's really good for you. Got to get out in the sun. Got to breathe some fresh air. Well, I live in LA. There's no such thing. But generally speaking, need some air that's not circulating around your apartment all day. So I guess it'll be fun. I'm going to try my best to do that in a minute. And after this, I'm going to leave and do that. I got to go to Target. I'm finally going to get a mop. Finally getting a mop. Which might sound gross that I haven't had a mop for the 6 months I've lived here. And it is a little gross. But I vacuum, all right? I'm not a gross mess. But, like, this place needs to be mopped. So that's what I'm going to do when I get off of here. What are you doing? I wish you could talk to me, so I'm not just talking to myself all day, every day. I will be doing that. Got to go get it. Let's see. This is how I feel like I've burnt all of my energy out with that stupid rant, but I got to go get a mop. I got to edit the podcast. I got to go to the other grocery store, get some other stuff. I got to cook dinner for the week. That's a lot of stuff, and it's late, and I hate that it's late. But I'm going to get it all done. It's all good. No fear of failure. Just start it. Sometimes I get paralyzed starting something because I'm like, fuck. I know what it entails. So I'm just like, how about I just ignore it until the last possible moment and then stress myself out as much as possible, which is not good either, for those of you wondering. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't think I can stretch another couple minutes just because I want it to be an hour. I've said what I had to say today. I hope you got something from it. If you watched the whole thing, thank you so much. Please, I hate saying this kind of stuff, but if you like this type of thing, please follow me on social media and like, comment or like and subscribe and stuff. All the stuff that every other annoying piece of garbage tells you every time you watch one of their things. But it does matter for people trying to do this kind of thing. So if you could, I'd really appreciate it. But thank you so much. Appreciate you. Take care of yourself. You got this. Don't forget that a lot of the issues that you're facing right now, you're making bigger in your head than they need to be. And yeah, just take care of yourself. You got this shit. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much. Bye.